This is a podcast about the Level 2 module, ELL217 Sociolinguistics. My name's Emma Moore and I convene this module because it builds upon my main research specialisms. In fact, the title of the module is also my job title. Most of my publications explore the relationship between language and identity, and this has been a key focus of my research. So my work has explored how people use language to style themselves as particular types of people. It also means thinking about how social class might affect the forms of language that people have access to, and also how community membership affects who people want to speak differently from. I'm also interested in how and why language change occurs over time, and much of my work has focused on the role that adolescents play in driving forward language change. So all of these things inform what we cover in this module. But sociolinguistics is a very diverse research area. Particularly in this module, we focus on an area of sociolinguistics known as variationist sociolinguistics. This research studies the patterns of language variation that occur across social groups. So week by week, we look at how different social factors affect the language that people use. We cover a range of different topics, including social class, so thinking about whether middle class people speak differently from working class people, for instance, and trying to explain why. We also think about gender, so thinking about whether there are forms of language that men use more than women or vice versa. We look at age, so we look at some of that adolescence research that I talked to you about a moment ago, thinking about how adolescents are particularly creative in their language use and also how they drive change forward. But we also look at whether language can change across the lifespan and what happens to people's language use at different ages. We also think about ethnicity, so thinking about how one's ethnicity can affect the language that one has access to, and also the way in which language is used as a marker or identifier of particular ethnic groups. We're also interested in looking at how language variation proceeds over time, and we'll look, for instance, at the typical patterns of language variation that we find in communities when change is underway. It's also important to note that this module focuses on methods. That is to say, we consider how sociolinguists have discovered the patterns that they observe in their data sets. So the aim here is really to equip you with the skills you might need to undertake your own sociolinguistic research if you would want to do this later in your degree programme. And the module assessments are very much geared to testing your ability to undertake sociolinguistic research. Of these, the first and second assessment go together. In the first assessment, you're given some data from a real corpus of recordings that we hold at the University of Sheffield, and you're asked to extract and sort this data in order to think about the linguistic features that occur within the recordings. In the second assessment, you then write up a discussion exploring how different social factors might explain the variation you discovered in assessment 1. And then in the final assessment, you're given much more freedom and you're asked to present a proposal for your own sociolinguistic study. And you do this by drawing on all the methods and techniques you've learnt about in the course of the module. In terms of teaching, there's a range of different teaching formats in order to get the benefit of having these different ways of learning for you. So the course is taught by one weekly seminar and one weekly workshop. The seminar is a combination of lecture, exercises and discussion, so it combines the kind of traditional lecture format that you're used to with more student-centred learning thrown in as well. There are 2 hours blocked out for this class, but what typically happens is the last half hour is given over to consultation time, so this gives you an opportunity to ask questions about what we've covered in the week or to ask questions about your assessment, for instance. The workshop lasts 1 hour, and this gives you an opportunity to follow up material that was first presented in the seminar, so it will include things like group work, data sorting tasks, and again some support for your assessments. There are no formal prerequisites for this module, although I will assume that you have a basic understanding of phonetics and syntax, and by that I mean that you have an understanding similar to the level that's taught on our Level 1 modules, Sounds of English and Structures of English. The suggested module text is Miriam Mayhoff's Introducing Sociolinguistics. This is available as an ebook in the library, so you can check it out in advance. If you have any questions about this module, do feel free to get in touch. The best way to do this is by email, and my email address is e.moore@sheffield.ac.uk. You might also decide that you want to follow me on Twitter. This is my professional account, and I tend to tweet about all things sociolinguistics although there are some political things thrown in too.